Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be voicing over another time-lapse session. So we skipped a little bit last time. I'm not sure that I actually finished building the terrain. I might have, I might not have. But in today's episode I'm going to be showcasing the transformation of this map from black, white, and green to full color. I don't know exactly what else I do. I think just checking angles out. But I did skip probably about an hour and a half of finalization between last time and this time. Let's see. So there have been some lighting problems on those two rocks, and it's actually because I needed to change the direction of the texture because the texture was misaligned on the face. Right now I'm actually deleting back faces, and now it seems I'm going to be combining and then breaking the floor object over and over. Here I'm checking out some headshot angles here because it played kind of interesting during the test, wondering if I can do something different. I actually do end up doing something different in the long run, just because that truck prop has some sort of strange unwanted angles. Right now thinking about adding a ladder there. That was one of the feedbacks, was that this long stretch of driveway was pretty boring. Thinking about angles, potential terrorists lurking inside of the vent, and then I decided to do it, but not before thinking about what else I want to do, especially with this back area. It's kind of boring, there's nothing going on. I do end up fixing that actually in the next version. Jeez, I really move around a lot. It's a bit sickening, isn't it? So this section played pretty well, but I wanted to delete the ladder because there are too many ladders on my map. This kind of unfortunate because I just had to add that ladder back. And here I did something where I'm actually dragging and dropping the asset onto grid here. I don't like the way this works. Climbing down the ladder that way, you're not exposed enough. So I decided to shift the ladder over here. This actually makes a lot more sense, but now I have to redo all of the geometry on the entire vent connection to make this work, which is actually a good thing. I'm glad I'm doing this, because that geometry down there was pretty terrible. Also, the ladder prevents you from taking damage as you're falling, and that's a really good thing. You can see just how bad it looks with the current geo. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of that, and then I'm going to reconnect this much more efficiently. You can actually see just how much better the new connection is from the old one. Once I bake the lighting, you can really see that. All I need to do is just slightly shift these guys over, and check it out. It's much nicer. And then I just needed to pop smooth normals on everything. It's actually more efficient too. Efficiency is key. I think I was just baking lighting for the entire level. It just didn't, the window didn't come up. Not sure though. So here's where I'm deciding to add some sort of like a bar structure outside. Unfortunately, I really undercooked on this version. Dragooni, who some of you might know from Map Inc., helped me out a lot with making this bar area. It was actually, I had a really nice conversation with him. It was very productive because I undercooked it. And I think everyone who looked at this first bar version would have said so too. But right now I'm just making a pool tube. A little donut. Blender donut. Yeah. Smoothing the edges out this way doesn't work. The only way to do it actually is sorry about that. Yeah, the only way to actually do this properly is the way I'm doing it now. And to subdivide it further manually. Yeah, making toruses is not easy. If there's a better way to make a torus, please let me know. It probably starts with a cylinder and then cutting the center out would be my guess. But this worked for me. Especially once I smooth out and bevel the edges, it looks fine. It's still a little bit too square, but I think I'm about to fix that. And once I've fixed it, the issue pretty much goes away. See, now it's round enough that it can be a pool tube. I'm wondering if a player should be able to hide inside of it, and then I resize it. Nice little prop. A good outdoor prop is a pool tube for a pool area. The main issue with this kind of cover is actually you should be able to shoot straight through it. But I still haven't made it shoot throughable. It should be like a cloth, very easily penetratable by bullets. Fake cover, Then you run into the issue of players actually, hiding behind it and thinking it's good cover. So we sort of have issues with that. But I'm glad I didn't playtest the version of the map where I use all of this stuff, because it would be a pretty big issue if I did that. Rule of thumb, by the way, those three colors that I picked look terrible together. Try to pick the same color for all of your props of one kind. Even a little bit of visual noise like that can actually be pretty confusing if you're looking for an enemy. Bit like a ghillie suit. Hey guys, this is actually the second interesting portion of my map making bit. Here I'm actually going to be making a G Wagon. I also made a Bugatti, but I'm not sure if I recorded that part. Also, I appear to be AFK on the stream right now, which is a little bit interesting. Much better. Yeah, so here we go, pulling up these copyrighted images of cars for the YouTube video. Lovely. Just reference, guys. I promise I'm making my own car brand. For the floor, I'm using dev reflectivity here because I want to have a proper scale for the object. I want it to be 128 wide and probably 192 tall. However, this scale is actually way too large, and sooner or later I'm going to resize it to make the final prop, and I'm actually going to resize it again because it is still slightly too tall. Principal reason is actually that I put a little bit of detail over the hood of the car, and it was just a headshot angle before, but not like a terrible one. And now it's an atrociously bad headshot angle. But yeah, I'll let you enjoy the process of making this car because it's really nice. I won't have to talk over it. You can see what I'm doing. So one of the key things that I'm actually doing here is I'm separating the objects out. What that allows me to do is do things like move the wheel wells really easily. It would be very, very, very hard to do what I'm doing right now, which is just slightly nudging this wheel well forward, if the wheel well's geometry was part of the same object as the car. And this looks like it's hard right now, what I'm doing, but if I had all of that trim outside of the wheel well, this is part of the same mesh, right? It would be a huge issue. One of the nice things about non-viz architecture, by the way, is actually that you can kind of get away with whatever you want, as long as you mark it as not a viz contributor and you don't have tons of back faces or extra geometry. You can really like feel free to make mistakes and just kind of go with the flow. Nothing really has to exactly line up. As long as it looks more or less good, it's probably fine. So I kind of use my freedom to experiment and make mistakes to make a pretty good part of this car, because not all of it is perfect by any means, but it looks good enough, and I'm happy with good enough. Does not have to be perfect. And here I'm experimenting with this bridge tool that I found that's different from the bridge faces tool. I actually end up using it one more time to make the rims for the tires. So I'll see you then. It'll be in a few minutes. Alright, so here's making the tire. And one of the first things that you'll notice I do is I turn this into a prefab, or sorry, an instance. So the entire car will be a prefab in the end, which just means that it's in a separate map file. So when I compile all the lighting, it doesn't compile each individual asset, it compiles it as a map, which is really nice. The other thing is if I select everything, it won't change settings that are inside of this area. It's just like a very unique part of the map that's in a separate VMap, which is kind of incredibly nice. The other thing that, the thing though that a instance does is when I make changes to any one part of the instance, so if I, for example, recolor one of the tires, it'll recolor all of the tires because they're all referencing the same mesh and exact replicas of that mesh. That's why everything else is grayed out. And if you want to make your own instance, for example, if you want to make a fence that's an instance, or a window trim that's an instance, or a stone for your level that's an instance, or maybe like an iron girder for a warehouse, whatever you want to make, an I-beam, a light, anything that you're going to be making a lot of that you only want to make once, and especially if you're going to be editing it later, and you want to be able to add detail to one that changes everything else as well. All you have to do is just right click it, go into the properties, and then set it to be a create new instance, and it'll turn red. That doesn't mean it's broken in this case. All that means is you just double click it, and then you can start editing it. And if you want to exit the instance, all you have to do is double click something in that whiter area outside of the instance. So right now I've created more or less an outline kind of what I think a tire looks like. I'm not a car nerd, so I didn't do this properly. I'm sure that someone in the comments is probably screaming about that right now. Please let me know that I'm an idiot in the comments if you think that I'm an idiot, because it'll improve my channel quality and make me feel really good on the inside. So go ahead and say that. So right now something I'm noticing is I can't actually bridge these two edge loops or faces because they don't actually have the proper number of vertices. Two of these have 6 vertices and 2 of these have 4, meaning that 2 of them are quads and 2 of them are loops. I guess the loop, like the edges of a quad, not necessarily actually a quad because there's no face. So now I'm going to end up creating those extra vertices, and then I will bring them together. Just like that. And as you can see, when I hit that bridge faces tool, it actually makes a pretty interesting shape that I like a lot. So I just repeat the process over and over again around the entire build. And you can see the results for yourself. I think it looks pretty good, but it does require a bit of work to make sure that all of those vertices are one-to-one across the bridge. So now this is finished. I'm going to give it some color. Maybe I'll retouch the geometry slightly, but I think this is just done now. Oh, yeah, it looks like I'm going to bevel that interface a little bit. Or inset it, I suppose. It's not a bevel. Oh, the end result is a bevel, but it's an inset. So just making sure these tires are there. And something that I immediately see looking at this is that this car is still too wide, like way too wide. And also there's something off about the roof shape. It's too boxy still. The roof needs to come in a little bit more on both sides. I think I'm about to figure that out, because this car still kind of looks like a Big Mac, not like a G Wagon. So yeah, too wide. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, fixing the roof right here. I don't actually have to fix that side. I just have to delete that whole entire side of the car. But I have to do that because of the windows. But we'll see what I do either way. Here I'm just bringing in the bumper slightly. I'm a big fan of this change too. It looks a lot better now. The car is still too wide by probably about 6 units. So let's see if I fix that, because that really does take a lot of effort. So let's see what it looks like. So I don't know if you caught it, but right there I just used the mirror tool, which only works in the face select mode. But if you hit M, nothing happens until you draw a line, and then it'll mirror whatever mesh you have over to the other side of that line, depending on which way you draw the line, whether it's towards yourself, away from yourself, left to right, right to left. It'll flip which side it gets duplicated on or mirrored over. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, it must just be the same line no matter what, and it depends on which side of the shape you're drawing it on. Because technically, you could mirror something away from itself, which would be strange. I don't know why you would ever do that. Then I guess you could use the flip tool and get some really interesting looking stuff. It might be useful for like architecture. I don't know about making a car. You know what's funny? I'm actually watching the same exact guy editing this video right now, and I totally forgot that I was watching him when I was making the map changes here. Ooh, look at that undercooked bar area. That looks terrible. Now, right now, I believe I'm still thinking about the color of the overall mansion, because I am still not in love with it at this point. That white color, like a really nice pearly, purplish white. That's like only very slightly a purple hue. Could be interesting, especially with the Bugatti right there. You know, it would be like the guy likes purple, you know, or the girl who owns the place, but or whoever, I suppose. But I think I settled for orange. Now I'm thinking, like, do I want to have the G Wagon out of the map as well? And then I just move it back. So here comes being brave in the next part. I'm going to make some decisions that just require me to be pretty brave. And that's going to be changing the scene from a tropical environment that's very lush into a desert environment that's also kind of lush, but mostly pretty barren. Now, why the desert environment? So lush environments are great, but a green terrace blend into a green background. And I think that caves are pretty common in countries like Thailand, Vietnam, but especially underwater caves, like the one that is in the CT spawn, right? So it definitely could have been a, Southeast Asian Polynesian map. Would probably have looked pretty good. But I think that the setting being more of like a deserty vibe is actually nice for Counter-Strike in general, because everyone pops out against red, like a reddish-orange background. There are no agents that'll blend in. Makes it easy for spotting players. But also, I just think the vibe of the house is pretty American. It doesn't really make sense to have a house like that outside of this country, except in maybe South America. So it could have been a South American map still, but I don't know which countries in South America besides like Brazil have palatial modern houses like that. Most people who have wealth in South America choose to live pretty modestly. Like, we're not talking McMansions, like they're beautiful homes and they're safe, but they're small. Not like this. This is an American style, like modern house. It's huge, unapologetically huge, and that doesn't make sense for Asia either. Although I could theoretically see this being in Asia still, but I don't think it would be tasteful. And here's the big change. So I changed the house to that nice like yellowish stucco, and that's when I realized this isn't meant to be in Asia. And I changed the color, and I never went back after that, because this orange color just makes everything pop. Even underground. Now I end up changing the underground color slightly, but just look at how good that looks. I'm being honest. Looks amazing. All the rocks look great. Yeah. Why would you go back? Why would I go back? It just looks so good. And there I experiment with the walls. I end up not changing the walls back. So here I'm going to create like a darker orange color for the rock, which actually looks quite good. And here's where I realized that this bit there should also be that color. And that's when I know that I need to change more of this to have like a darker, earthier, like underneath the ground looking rock as well. Often when you dig into oxidized rock, you get a darker, browner rock underneath. So that's what I've done. Because underneath the ground, obviously, the rock has had less time to oxidize, which is just a chemical reaction that like the minerals in the rock interact with the air. And most people think rust with oxidization, and yeah, iron oxides are red. That's why Mars is red. And that's why these rocks are red too. But there are other chemicals inside of the rocks that will oxidize, other minerals inside of the rocks as well. Don't know what. I haven't taken earth science in a very long time. But they will cause the rocks to turn black or green, or purple or blue, depending on what's inside of the rock. Do you like rocks? Alright, so here is my final failed attempt at trying to connect the secret lab room with the rest of the map. Now, people have always said that the secret lab room is a little weird. Like, why is there a squeaky door here if it doesn't go anywhere? To those people, it does have a purpose. The purpose is to have a nice, like, hidey hole to save in. The map doesn't have anything like that. Most maps do, and I wanted to add something. So I experimented with this vent design, and I think, ironically enough, this version of the vent is actually the one that works best. It's short, there's nothing complicated about it. You just go in on one side and go out on the other. I texture it up, and it ends up looking alright, but then I think about the gameplay of, like, rotating through a squeaky door here and then needing to jump around inside of this loud vent that's, like, you know, claustrophobic and honestly terrible. And I realized, like, that isn't what this map really wants. Like, if it was going to have a rotation path, it should be nice and wide and open without a squeaky door that goes from there to there. That way players can choose which exit to take, whether it's the elevator or Z. now I'm thinking about an optional second design. Like, what if I flung this out further here and had all of the length at the end? But I still haven't quite figured out the actual problem, which is that these areas just shouldn't connect. Like, if they do connect, the T's are going to go. This is actually a much better vent, by the way. This is really nice. Like, this totally would be playable. It'd be a little headshotty there, but like, who really cares? And here I'm thinking about the theming and maybe having like a long vertical shaft, right? That you can't play inside of, but it like looks good. So you wouldn't be able to clear. You wouldn't be able to like go down there, but you can see how long and vertical this shaft would be. You know what else is long and vertical? No, I'm joking. Yeah, though this is also definitely like an undercook. Like, there are already too many ladders on this map, and I'm just gonna add another ladder inside of a vent that doesn't work or whatever, and yeah, it just doesn't look good. So that's all I have to say about this. You'll see later, but I ended up removing it. I might have removed this, but man, this lighting looks good. So just remember, this is being played at 400% speed. So think about how much time I've actually spent on this. And I just baked all the lighting, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wow, this is so nice and everything, and I'm really happy with it. But, you know, I'm going to end up having to delete it. So sometimes a little bit of detail is actually really nice so that you can tell how an area is going to feel and how it's going to play. But the real thing is that the vent that I just made literally does the same exact job that the elevator room does. And I just haven't really thought about it. So I'm doing a bit more plant detailing, but after I check this out in game, I think I'm not going to like that vent at all. And I do end up removing it. Here I'm finally revisiting this undercooked bar and getting rid of the one thing that really truly turns it into a disaster, which is that a vertical shelving element there. And here I'm still thinking that I cooked and that this looks really good. The color looks really good, honestly. The color is really nice. I don't even know what color that is, but it's freaking beautiful. Like a seafoam green. Lovely, lovely color. And honestly, I could use it more around the level. That's a really nice color there. I totally could have kept that, but I think I end up keeping that white. And now I'm just recoloring the driveway as well. Nice tan color. That might be too tan. I think a pinkish probably look better, like a dark pink. Yeah, there we go. That's too saturated, but I might keep that color. We'll see. This is one of my cooler ideas here, is having these spotlights. They actually make a really cool shadow across that whole back area as you're crossing into the rescue zone, which is pretty neat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching with me. Like and subscribe. Bye bye.